Hoppy April, everybody! Whether the sun is shining and the birds are chirping, or it's cold and pissing down rain, nothing can prevent the release of exciting new video games for you to stay indoors and play. Let me tell you all about April's biggest game releases. On April 4th, you can put up your dukes and do some fisticuffs and possibly break a lamp in your living room when Creed Rise to Glory Championship Edition comes to PSVR 2. This was previously released on other VR platforms, but it's been tightened up for Sony's new hat, and considering the PSVR 2 has haptics in the controllers and the headset itself, this is probably the most authentic way to get punched in the face by Mr. T that won't also result in a trip to the emergency room and a restraining order. Also on the 4th is Meet Your Maker on everything but Switch. That's the first-person shooter/builder wherein players must navigate deadly trap-filled levels designed by other players, and of course design some traps and levels of their own. This will likely live or die by how involved the community gets, but thankfully it's hitting PlayStation Plus on day one, so that'll likely attract a good amount of players who might not have been willing to buy it at full price. And hey, that worked pretty well for Rocket League and Fall Guys. Still on the 4th for Switch and both PlayStations is Grim Grimoire Once More, which is a remaster of Vanillaware's 2007 side-scrolling strategy RPG, which features the usual bevy of cute anime girls and guys with painterly flourishes that studio is well known for. On the 5th, you can run your own motion picture studio, or rather simulate the experience of running one in Movie House, the film studio tycoon on PC. This looks to be a quaint and charming love letter to the heyday of Hollywood, rather than something rooted in cynicism towards present-day filmmaking, where practically anything that isn't a cinematic universe, mega franchise, or recognizable IP is doomed from day one. On the 6th, Curse of the Sea Rats comes to all the things, which is a hand-drawn ratoidvania about rat pirates, which you've probably already figured out, and which definitely has some Don Bluth and Disney mouse movie DNA, you know, like Secret of Nim, The Great Mouse Detective, and The Rescuers. The Rescuers Down Under is my personal favorite because pea soup! What is your favorite film about rodents? And no, The Green Mile doesn't count. Still on the 6th is Batora Lost Haven, which comes to Switch, and I regret to inform you that as far as I can tell, this isometric action RPG does not involve bats in any major capacity, and if you're not a Switch owner, heads up, this is already out on other platforms. Ravens are sort of like bats, and I'm also sad to say that Raven's Watch doesn't seem to have too many of those, but it is an isometric roguelike from the devs behind Curse of the Dead Gods, so if you already burned through that, this might be an option to kill some time until Hades 2 comes out. On April 12th, the formerly PS5 exclusive Ghostwire Tokyo comes to Xbox Series X and S, along with some new updates and tweaks and bells and whistles and all that kind of stuff, and thankfully PS5 and PC players will get those as well. Then of course there's Murderous Muses, which has you solving murder mysteries in an art gallery where you are spending the night for reasons that are equally mysterious to me. That is on everything but Switch. A bunch of stuff drops for PC on the 13th, like the top-down retro-style dark fantasy action game Hunt the Night, not to be confused with Beyond the Long Night, which is a retro-styled twin-stick roguelike, and then there's the co-op tower defense Voodolls, and finally, Total War Warhammer 3 Forge of the Chaos Dwarfs DLC. And I want to give a nod to Games Workshop for regularly having DLC titles so long-winded they don't fit in headlines or video titles, something that usually only JRPGs are guilty of. Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection hits PC, PlayStation, and Switch on the 14th, and that includes 10 whole games from the tactical RPG series to keep you busy at your own pace, which sounds much less stressful than the Blue Bomber's usual run-and-gun misadventures. On the 17th, Suffer the Night hits PC. Again, this is not to be confused with Hunt the Night or Beyond the Long Night. This one is a first-person atmospheric survival horror with some classic slasher movie trappings, and I will politely say no thank you. I'm scared enough in my own real-life house under normal, boring circumstances. Actually, sidebar for a moment, one of my big pet peeves in horror is when the settings are cliché abandoned locales that most people have never seen aside from in other horror fiction. You know, like Victorian mansions, abandoned mental hospitals, and prisons, that kind of thing. And I find it so much more unsettling when horror takes place in extremely mundane or familiar places. And of course, whenever a horror game actually does that, like this one's doing, it's too scary for me because I'm a huge baby. But also, I would love to see some horror set in realistic liminal spaces. You know, like a modern day hospital that's actually clean and boring like real hospitals, or old folks' homes, which are like even scarier hospitals, or like a self-storage facility. Those are always weird. Or how about a TJ Maxx clearance section? Put some ghosts in there. I used to work graveyard shift at a gas station, and sometimes at like 3 a.m. when I was mopping all the floors, the fridge doors would swing open a few inches at the same time by themselves and then immediately slam shut. And normally that only happened when somebody slammed the walk-in freezer door, but I would be the only one there and the doors would be locked, so yeah, somebody make a video game in a regular-ass, thoroughly mopped Chevron mini-mart that just so happens to be haunted, and I will absolutely not play that because that's f***ing terrifying. Anyway, something that is definitely not scary and will probably be a hit with huge babies of the literal variety is Disney Speedstorm, which is a free-to-play combat racing game featuring familiar Disney characters. This is from Gameloft, the studio that used to be infamous for licensed mobile shovelware, but which is also behind the recent Animal Crossing-like Disney Dreamlight Valley, and people seem to really enjoy that one, and I'm curious to see if they can pull off a free-to-play Mario Kart-like as well. Mickey and Donald aren't the only ones refusing to stay in their lane this month, and the action strategy Minecraft spin-off Minecraft Legends hits all the platforms that day as well. Much like Minecraft Dungeons, this gives the familiar voxelated universe a different mechanical spin. Legends has been co-developed with a bunch of Relic Entertainment veterans, that was the studio behind Homeworld and Company of Heroes, so this might have some deceptively complex strategy guts despite its cute and kid-friendly appearance. Still more genre bending is going on in God of Rock, which is on everything that day as well. This is a rhythm game that is also a fighting game, so it's kind of like Puzzle Fighter, but by way of Rock Band instead of Puyo Puyo. Speaking of puzzles, still on the 18th is Puzzle Quest 3 on the Xboxes and the PlayStations. This one is this month's winner for the video game title that sounds the most like the title of a video game award. That's an award I made up just now. On the 19th, Aloy goes to LA in Horizon Forbidden West's Burning Shores DLC, and look, I realize this isn't exactly the most realistic hard sci-fi, but how the fuck is that Hollywood sign still standing over 1,000 years in the future, post-apocalypse, when the Earth has been terraformed by cybernetic clock radio dinosaurs or whatever? California catches fire multiple times a year in our present real-world nigh-apocalypse, and I'm sorry, it just completely breaks the immersion of the robot dinosaur game where you can make ice arrows out of garbage and rocks. Just not buying it. Anyway, on 420 you can Blades Up in Stray Blade, a Soulsy-looking action-adventure RPG that has some crunchy-looking combat, but it's a bit more colorful than most FromSoft and FromSoft-inspired games, which is nice. That's on PC and New Gen. Still on the 20th is Tin Hearts, which I'm guessing is not a prequel to Atomic Heart or a sequel to Wild Hearts, but you never know. In any case, it is a Lemmings-like where you guide a troop of tin soldiers through a hazard-filled bedroom and try to murder as few of them as possible in the process, unless you're a twisted sadist. That's on everything. If you like bossing around cute little soldiers, you will be happy to know that Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp is finally coming to Switch on the 21st, collecting the beloved GBA turn-based strategy games Advance Wars and Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising, but giving them a fresh coat of paint and some modern tweaks and improvements such as online multiplayer. Also on the 21st is the hilariously long-awaited Dead Island 2. From what I've gathered, this is the second, possibly third iteration of a sequel that was originally announced in 2014 but is only just now getting released. So far the reception seems pretty positive, but need I remind everybody that Los Angeles is not actually an island? Just saying, if you can overlook that major geographical error, you can go whack some bikini zombies over the head with an electric sledgehammer on PC, the Xboxes, and the PlayStations. Go nuts. Mia and the Dragon Princess is a live-action narrative adventure from the studio responsible for some other interactive movies like Late Shift, Complex, and Who Pressed Mute on Uncle Marcus, and this time around it is a kung fu adventure. That's on everything. If you prefer hand-drawn animated action to the live-action variety, on the 25th, After Image comes to everything, and it is a gorgeous-looking 2D hack-and-slash. The same day is the equally colorful but more 3D beat-em-up styled Strayed Lights, which is also on everything, and this should not be confused with Stray Blade, though they both seem to be erring on the side of colorful despite being somewhat dark fantasy-looking otherwise. And neither of those Stray games should be confused with regular Stray, which is that game about the cat with the backpack that did the hijinks that came out a while ago. Finally on the 25th is Trinity Trigger, which has modern visuals but pays homage to the classic JRPGs of yesteryear, and I have a sneaking suspicion that Chrono Trigger is one of those, though it's unclear if Trinity Trigger lets you be friends with a cool frog. You'll have to check it out to see for yourself. On the 26th, we're getting Desta, The Memories Between. That is a team-based tactics adventure that has a really cool low-poly flat aesthetic, and it touts itself as being cozy, which sounds like it might be a good chill time if you don't feel like having your ass kicked. And look, call me crazy, sometimes I'm not looking for an ass kicking, though you'd probably never guess it by how I run my mouth. On the 27th, you've got the Lovecraftian indie Metroidvania, The Last Case of Benedict Fox, which looks appropriately gross and icky, and that's coming to PC and Xbox. Then there's Bramble the Mountain King, an extremely weird-looking adventure rooted in Nordic folklore, which is coming to basically everything. One of this month's biggest games, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, drops on the 28th, and that continues the adventures of Cal Kestis and BD-1 as they run around fighting stormtroopers and large frogs and solving puzzles and collecting ponchos, though I think they're actually collecting vests this time around. Really, that first game was very, very fun despite some technical hiccups and long load times, and I'm really excited to see how the folks at Respawn are able to build on it. Never mind the fact that we're not getting a ton of other big Star Wars stuff these days. It probably doesn't hurt that this is actually a proper new-gen game designed for the Xbox Series X and S and the PS5, rather than something that is forced to accommodate hardware that launched literally a decade ago. But hey, if you're still rocking a PS4 or Xbox One, there's nothing wrong with that, and worry not because new games are still coming out. That day also sees the release of Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, the Nargacuga-sized expansion for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Series X/S that previously launched on PC and Switch, so it's now on everything. Nuclear Blaze is a cute little pixelated platformer about firefighting, which is coming to Xbox One, PS4, and Switch, and weirdly, while digging up info about it for this video, it turns out you can just play it for free in your browser legally, I think, which usually isn't the case with these games. Welcome to Goodland is a strategy adventure where you gotta do business, but it's crime business, which certainly doesn't sound like a very good land to me. Quit breaking the law, you criminals. Anyway, you can learn the ins and outs of breaking the law in an orderly fashion on PC. Also slated for a vague sometime in April release are Tron Identity, the visual novel-esque game from Thomas Was Alone and John Wick Hex developer Mike Bithell, which is on PC and Switch, and the co-op action shmup Dogfight, which doesn't have nearly enough dogs in it as far as I can tell. And on that note, there you have it. A whole bunch of games that are coming out in April. And it's possible that some games we mentioned don't actually come out in April, and it's possible that some games come out in April that we didn't mention. But either way, let us know in the comments, or you can just tell us what you're playing this month. That works too. If you're after a roundup of some of the new streaming shows and movies coming this month, we've got you covered there too. So keep an eye out for our newest streaming video. Otherwise, I will see you next month for the biggest games of May. That can't be right. May is practically summertime, and it was just February. I'm gonna go complain about this reckless meddling with calendars. Somebody should be getting a scolding. It can't be May yet. Anyway, in the meantime, you all have a wonderful April. I'll see you later.